Blackstone Audiobooks presents The Last Hawk by Catherine Asaro. To my daughter Kathy, with love. Acknowledgements. I would like to acknowledge the readers who gave me input on this book. Dr. Lynn Deutsch, Dr. Steve Goldhaber, Dr. Margaret Graff, Dr. Kate Kirby, Dr. Malcolm LeCompte, and Mr. Tim Oy. I give special thanks to the above because they were the first ever to see my fiction, and their insights helped me learn to write. My thanks also to Dr. Joan Slonczewski, to Eleanor Wood of Spectrum Literary Agency, to Scoville, Chychak, and Galen, and to the staff at Tor, in particular Tad Dembinski and David G. Hartwell. A loving thanks to my husband, John Kendall Canizzo, for his care and support. Prologue. The ship's controls wobbled in and out of focus. Kelric tried to rub his eyes, but his arm refused to respond. The exoskeleton on his pilot's seat had jammed around his body. When he fumbled for the catches, his fingers just scraped over the mesh. On his fourth attempt, the exoskeleton opened and he fell forward, sprawling across the weapons grid in the cockpit. The only illumination came from the red warning lights that glowed all over the control panels, bathing the cockpit in a dim crimson radiance that didn't reach its shadowed recesses. One green light shone among the red, an engine, one of his inversion engines. It was the only fully functional system on his ship. It was also why he still lived. "I'm inverted," Kelric mumbled. The same hit that had crippled his JAG fighter had kicked it from the sublight universe into inversion, hurling him away from his attackers before they could blast him into slag. The medkit above him hadn't released. He reached for it, but his arm faltered in midair and dropped back onto the grid. Not that it mattered. He needed far more help than a kit could give. More help than even provided by his nanomeds, the tiny cell repair machines in his body. Pain throbbed in his arm from a bone-deep gash. In the exoskeleton he had been numb, probably because it injected him with an anesthetic, or perhaps the biomech web in his body had released a drug that blocked pain receptors in his brain. It would give him only so much of the drug, though, before its safety routines cut it off to prevent an overdose or brain damage. Now his arm hurt too much to move. Even if it intended to stay put, though, his ship was going somewhere. At least it had taken him away from the traders. He had been out alone on reconnaissance when the trader squad caught him. He hoped they all inverted into the gravity well of a star and finished their careers as kindling for the local furnace. An alarm sputtered. Lifting his head, he saw that the green light had turned yellow. The last inversion engine was failing. Kelric swallowed. He had to find a place to land. Closing his eyes, he tried to clear his mind. "Bolt, respond," he thought. The computer node in his spine answered. "Attending." Its messages traveled along bio-optic threads to his brain, where tiny bioelectrodes in his brain cells converted the signals into neural firing patterns. It worked in reverse as well, letting him talk to the node. "Status of nanomeds," he thought. "Nanomed Series G and H functional, but depleted," the node answered. "Series O non-functional. All other series exhibit decreased function." Kelric grimaced. His nanomeds repaired his body. Each med consisted of two parts, a molecule designed for a particular task, and a picochip, an atomic computer that operated on quantum transitions. Altogether, the picochips formed a pico-web that told the meds what to do and how to replicate themselves. But it was Bolt, his spinal node, that ran the show. Like the conductor of a symphony, it directed his entire biomech web, which consisted of the pico-web, the bio-optics threading his body, and the bioelectrodes in his brain. The system had been integrated into his body 14 years ago when he was 20, the year he received his officer's commission. "Bolt," he thought, "what happened to my biomech web?" "You were linked into the ship's evolving intelligence brain when we were hit, so your web took a lot of damage. I am making repairs, but the malfunctions are too extensive for me to fully correct. Proceed immediately to an ISC medical facility." If he hadn't hurt so much, Kelric would have laughed. "Wish I could do that," he swallowed. "Can you give me a status report?" "Accessing optical nerve," Bolt answered. A display formed in Kelric's mind with different views of his interior systems. Then the display jumped out in front of him so it looked like a ghostly image hanging in the cockpit. Posterior tibial artery damaged. Bolt highlighted a diagram of his circulatory system showing a torn artery leaking blood. Kelric exhaled. His best hope to repair himself came from the final component of his internal systems, his chyle centers. Unlike the biomech web which had been created for him, he had been born with chyle mutations, courtesy of his unusual genetics. Microscopic organs in his brain made it possible for his brain waves to interact with those of people nearby, letting him pick up their moods and, on rare occasions, their thoughts. He could also enhance the output of his own brain, and so exert increased biofeedback control over his body. Kelric concentrated, trying to augment his biofeedback training. He helped speed structural components to the damaged artery, control his blood flow, and bring in nutrients. When he finally surfaced from his trance, he felt steadier, enough so he could sit up, holding his arm against his chest. An alarm warned again of the dying engine. "Navac," he said, "take us out of inversion into sublight space." No response came from the navigation attack node in the ship's evolving intelligence brain. "Navac," he repeated. "Initiate navigation mode." Silence. "Bolt, give me the ship's emergency menu," he thought. Bolt produced a display of emergency icons like computer icons, but in his mind instead of on a screen. He concentrated on the emergency shutoff icon for the inversion engines, the symbol of a running cheetah turning into a crawling snail. Only one of each animal appeared in the display, a reminder that he had only one functional engine. The cheetah was blinking off and on, warning it would soon disappear as well. "Toggle emergency shutdown," he thought. Nothing happened. "Bolt, toggle it!" A twisting sensation hit Kelric, as if he were being pulled through a Klein bottle, the three-dimensional equivalent of a Möbius strip. The effect intensified with a nauseating mental wrench, and then stopped. "Bolt," he thought. "We have dropped into normal space," Bolt answered. Kelric sagged in his seat, hit with an urge to laugh. Sublight. Safe. He was safe. He was also lost. None of his holomaps worked, and too many files in the ship's EI were degraded. He couldn't get accurate data. He knew only that he was light years away from his previous position, drifting in space like interstellar flotsam. What he needed was a beach to wash up on. "Navac," he said. "Respond." Nothing. Kelric slid his hand around his waist, searching his lower back. Sockets in his spine, wrists, and ankles let him connect his biomech web to exterior systems, such as the EI brain of his ship. When a connector prong clicked into a socket, it linked his bio-optics to the ship's fiber optics. The sockets could also act as infrared receivers and transmitters, a less reliable form of communication than a physical link, but better than nothing. When he had fallen out of the exoskeleton its prongs had pulled out of his body, he tried to push one back into his lower spine, but the prong wouldn't stay put. "Activate infrared receptors," he thought. "IR non-functional," Bolt thought. Kelric swore. He was running out of options. Taking a breath, he marshaled his thoughts. With his chyle enhancements, maybe he could couple the fields of his brain directly to those of the ship's EI brain. It helped that he was inside the ship, essentially on top of the EI. The electrical forces that dominated his brain activity fell off rapidly with distance. Concentrating, he tried to kick the EI awake with his mind. A ghostly green marble appeared in the air in front of him, casting eerie light over the cockpit. It took him a moment to recognize it as a holomap's crudest default display. Kelric exhaled. "Planet," he rasped. Navac's audio made a scraping noise. He tried again. "Planet." Nothing. "Navac," he thought. "You have to respond." A sentence formed in the air, green words in Navac's default font. "Have respond is an unidentifiable command." Relief washed over Kelric. "Planet," he thought with more intensity. The word appeared under Navac's response. "Planet what?" Navac printed. "Find me one, or a base, someplace habitable we can reach before Engine 4 dies." "Searching," Navac printed. Kelric waited. And waited. Maybe no place was near enough, or Navac was too damaged to answer.